Hello, Voices of Wrestling listener. Dave Ryan here. Have you ever wondered to yourself how many hidden gems are hidden away inside the last years of World Championship Wrestling? Have you ever asked yourself how many tenuous gags can be made about the name Mike Enos? And have you ever thought about what it sounds like for two Irishmen to interpret a very chaotic company through its B show? The answers to all this and more are just a click away. Check out Days of Thunder every second Thursday on the Voices of Wrestling podcast network.
Hello, do you like New Japan Pro Wrestling? Are you a Shin Nihon freak? If so, check out the Super J-Cast with Joel and Damon on the Voices of Wrestling podcast network.
And even if you fucking hate New Japan Pro Wrestling, listen to the Super J-Cast anyway. Not just for our great show reviews, analysis, and pastrami sandwiches, but there's also usually some dick jokes somewhere in the obligatory opening 30 minutes of absolute nonsense we chat about every single week. That's the Super J-Cast for all the best talk about New Japan Pro Wrestling, crisps, and pornography.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling podcasting network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Music of the Mat Remix on the Voices of Wrestling podcast network. I'm your host, Andrew Rich, joined today by a returning guest. He is a contributor at Voices of Wrestling. It's Dakota Jones. Hello again, Dakota.
Hey, Andrew. Glad to be here. Excited to talk about some Hall of Fame talk. It's that time of the year.
I know, yeah, glad you're back, definitely. Actually, before we get to that, I do want to say this. You are here on a landmark episode of the show because I did some counting, and not including a few bonus episodes that were done in the first year, by my count, this is the 200th episode of the entire Music of the Mat run, which is pretty insane to think about, I think, but also pretty cool that I made it this far. So, a lot of podcasts don't make it this far, but here I still am, Dakota. It's crazy.
Fantastic. Congratulations. Yeah, I'm very honored to be here on episode number 200. It's like a special edition of Dynamite or something. So
yeah,
it's a good way to go, I guess, talking about the Hall of Fame. But yeah, because you've been doing this since 2017. Did I make that up? Is that right?
Yeah, January 2017 is
Okay.
when Chris and I started the show. So yeah, and there was a break, of course, in between in the years there, but yeah. 200 episodes, and look, I've always appreciated your support for this show over the years, as I have for everyone else who listened, however tiny that number may be, but yeah, all the support from the listeners and everybody at VOW, of course, it makes the whole thing worth it. Now, I won't say, here's to 200 more, because I can't put that goal on me right now. I can't do it, but I'll just say, here's to the next one. How about that?
There we go. That's a good way to think about it. I like it.
Yeah. But anyway, yes, the 200th episode naturally requires a pretty grand topic, and I think this one fits, because as you said, Dakota, we are in Hall of Fame season right now, specifically the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame, and this is the time of year when ballots go out, and people debate and discuss their picks, who they're voting for, who they're not voting for. There's always a very lively discussion in the Hall of Fame channel in the VOW Discord. And, of course, Rich and Joe do their Observer Hall of Fame audio every year on the flagship Patreon. And that's all great stuff. Check that stuff out. But we will not be discussing the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame. We'll be discussing a different Hall of Fame, because it's around this time of year that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame does its annual induction ceremony. I believe it's early next month in November there. And we already know who's going in this year. We've known for months. So today, Dakota, you and I are going to be playing songs by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame class of 2025. And Dakota, you actually came to me after your first episode, the year-end episode last year, and said, hey, if you ever do a Hall of Fame episode, I'd like to do it with you. And I said, I do have an idea for that in mind, and now here we are months later doing it, Dakota.
Yeah, I know. I feel like I was like bothering you about it for months, so hopefully I wasn't annoying. But I'm trying to think. Last year, I don't remember if it was like end of the year, beginning of this year. I just I started to get into music more and more, and I found a podcast called "Who Cares About the Rock Hall," and it's all about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and it's just fantastic. And I really got into that show, and just I think my kind of the way my mind works, talking about the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame all the time, pretty easily transitioned into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And when talking about any Hall of Fame, or especially these two, they have their issues and
Mm-hmm.
problems with who gets in and who doesn't, and it's always a fun debate, and plenty of people who don't care at all about either Hall of Fame. But I think, kind of like Rich says on his audio all the time on the Patreon for the flagship, whether you like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or not, um, it's just a fun excuse to talk about fun bands. Like on their audio, it's a fun excuse to talk about great wrestlers. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what we're gonna do here.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, like any other big Hall of Fame, there's always going to be debates and arguments and controversies about who's in, who's not, the snubs, the delays. And look, I've been one of those guys who gets annoyed at the Hall of Fame. I mean, as a big prog rock and heavy metal fan, it's kind of hard not to, because the voters typically don't lean in those directions. Like, why did it take so long to get Deep Purple and Yes in? Especially since it happened after, John Lord and Chris Squire had already died. Why is Iron Maiden not in? Why is Jethro Tull not in? And King Crimson, Thin Lizzy, why are some band members inducted and not others? It's a whole big thing. And I've cooled off on that a lot. But I will admit a small part of me does still get annoyed when a band I like or artist I like doesn't get in or even get nominated. I'm only human, Dakota. I can't help it.
Yeah, no, it's one of the fun debates. It's I mean, again, interesting with every Hall of Fame, but especially in the Rock Hall, because you also have, a lot of industry insiders and politics and stuff like that goes into it. And you know, the big question that comes up a lot of discussing the Rock Hall, especially in more recent years, is like the term gets thrown around of being like a rockist, where you only like straightforward rock and roll. That's like, guitars, bass, drum, singer, and not too much deviation from that. And especially, in the last couple years or decade, they've really started to induct more hip hop and even like pop music, where this is, really the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is kind of just like the popular music Hall of Fame, um, without country and some other things that are sectioned off a little bit. But people sometimes get really hung up on that rock and roll name, and if they don't feel like a band is rock enough, then they don't want to vote for it. But I bring that up too because it kind of extends to where, yes, metal is not very excluded. So that's almost like too much rock. You have to have like just the right amount for some of these voters. And yeah, and I think like Judas Priest got in, and we'll talk about all the
We'll
weird
talk about that
categories.
later on. Yeah, I want to
I
bring that
think
up.
they were a special induction.
Hmm.
So it's a fascinating process. It can be frustrating, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. I enjoy thinking about it and just chatting about it and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think, like a lot of things, good or bad, I think the fans take the Hall of Fame a lot more seriously than the musicians do. Because it is a nice thing to be a part of and to get those flowers or whatnot. But at the same time, a bunch of inductees have not shown up at all for the ceremony, for one reason or another. Like when Van Halen went in, it was only Michael Anthony and Sammy Hagar. Sex Pistols famously sent a letter calling the Hall of Fame like a piss stain.
Sounds on brand for them.
Yeah. Axl Rose was like, "Don't even say my name." Like, so even with this big honor, I think the personal and legal nonsense always seems to take precedence. I think, Dakota, but
Yeah, oh, it does. And I mean, would Axel have even shown up anyway? That's the real
true,
question.
true. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and well, there's some chatter about some of the inductees this year also happening, but it's, yeah, the fans like it a lot, and with the artists, there's a lot more that goes into it, um, where they may or may not, care, or they may actively dislike the Hall of Fame or the process, or maybe they just actively dislike the people they're getting inducted with. Because sometimes bands don't get along, I've heard, maybe once or twice has happened, so,
Perhaps.
that can be an issue too, but it's music, so there's always some drama, and it makes it a lot of fun too for
Yeah.
an observer.
Of course, yeah. Well, everybody will be showing up for this episode in song form, at least. And the way we're going to do this, it's different from a typical episode. Instead of us going back and forth with our picks, we took 12 of the inductees and split them in two. I have 6, Dakota has 6. And we're going to go through them alphabetically by category. So we'll start with the main performer category. Then we'll go to the musical influence category. Then we'll go to the award for musical excellence. And then the playout song will be the non-performer inductee. And Dakota, you doubled up on a few of your picks, so you have 8 songs. I also picked my own songs for a few of your inductees, so I have 8 as well, so it's all even out there. So I'm ready if you are, Dakota.
Yeah, let's get going.
All right, well, the first category here, the performer category, there's 7 acts. And I've got the first bunch of acts here, starting with a supergroup consisting of Paul Rogers and Simon Kirke of Free, Mick Ralphs of Mott the Hoople, and Boz Burrell of King Crimson. This is Bad Company, and I picked a song off their 76 album Run with the Pack. This is the title track, Run with the Pack.
You tried to keep me in cages, but baby, you got to catch me fast. You think your love is contagious. I'll do my best, you can do your worst. I'm leaving you. Now who can I trust? You won't even see me. Oh no, but dust. I'm running with the pack, running with the pack. I'm running with the pack, never looking back.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite Bad Company song, as that mix of the stompy, rollicking verses and the slower, sweeping choruses. I love the extended outro with the strings as well, and Paul Rogers' voice is just amazing. But yeah, other hits of theirs, the song Bad Company, of course, Can't Get Enough, Good Lovin' Gone Bad, Shooting Star, Feel Like Making Love, Burnin' Sky, Rock and Roll Fantasy, lots of good stuff there. And also, their debut album, Bad Company, it was the first album put out by Swan Song Records, which was Zeppelin's label, which is pretty cool. And the original lineup lasted 6 albums, but the band would have other lineups and reunions over the years, up until a few years ago, actually. So, yeah, Bad Company starting us off there, Dakota.
Yeah, they are, and with this song, this is not one I'd heard before. I mean, I'll admit I'm really only kind of familiar with the hits for Bad Company. I tried to give them a little chance earlier in the year when they were coming up in kind of rock hall discussions, and I just couldn't really get into them. I guess I'll just start kind of firing off the hot takes since, why hold them back? I mean, I don't dislike them, but to me, they're kind of like replacement level classic radio rock band. And, a lot of people talk up Paul Rogers' vocals as being one of the big things that he kind of gets up there in like best rock vocalists. And obviously they're, quite successful and sold a lot of records, but again, not anything I can really get into. And they're kind of this, getting into the rock hall and like some of these classic rock bands from the 70s, they're kind of like, people are like, well, when are the point is it like gonna are they not quite good enough to get into the Rock Hall. Are we just going to keep inducting them until there are none left? And that's bad. Bad company is sometimes the line for some people. I don't know if it is for me, but it's something that comes up occasionally. But I did really like this song, not to be like raining on their parade. And I will say though, the first line always just makes me. I think he starts off saying, "You never give me your money," and then it just makes me think of the Beatles song instantly. And every time I start singing that instead. But again, I enjoyed it. I think the chorus is really good and the singing and everything. But they're just not my cup of tea. The Bad Company.
More like Hall of Lame from Dakota there. My goodness,
Oh,
starting us off hot. Good
I mean,
God,
all right,
good
I'll
God.
fire off my other one here. They're kind of like I'll try to make tenuous wrestling connections sometimes. I know we don't have to, but to me, they're
Go
almost
ahead,
like
go ahead.
the Randy Orton or Edge of the current like Hall of Fame nominees, where they are a big name and they were around for a long time and they sold a lot of records slash maybe drew some money as part of a big company or classic rock radio. Um, but there's really nothing special to them. And so that's the way I kind of think of them. The Rock Hall is interesting because there's no defined criteria for who gets in. So nobody really, there's not really anything clearly on how to judge people of whether they get in
Hmm.
or not, unlike the Observer, where we have kind of our talking points we go with. But um, so there's no true criteria for it. So the process of how people get in or not is not fully understood, and doesn't really make sense sometimes. But that's what happens with a large voting body.
Hmm. Well, sadly, Mick Ralphs died just a couple months ago, actually. And I think he was in bad shape, too, for a while there because of a stroke. But
Yeah.
it's, I think, another example of why you can't wait too long to induct these older bands, because the people in them might not be around long enough to see it happen, Dakota.
Yeah, and now you're making me feel bad for just, making fun of the band, and then the guy just died. Thanks a lot. But no, and that's what a lot of people will say too of trying to get people inducted while they're alive so they can appreciate it. I mean, I'm pretty sure. I mean, Black Sabbath went in a while ago, but I think Ozzy as a solo act just got inducted last year and passed away this year. So that was their kind of last chance to honor him, and they were able to do that. And so that's at least something that does get brought up a lot, and I think it's a good thing to think about. And one last thing, as I'm talking about Black Sabbath, I feel like the thing Bad Company is most famous for is the song Bad Company from the album Bad Company by Bad Company. Um, but I feel like I want to like give Sabbath that credit because they did it first, and I feel like their song is better, but that's just my preference.
Just digging the knife in deeper, aren't you,
I,
Dakota?
I'm
Come on.
sorry, I know I
A
can't
man is
help it.
dead, for God's sake. Come on now.
They made a lot of money, so I don't think he cares about my opinion.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Ugh.
All right. So next pick. This guy. His birth name is Ernest Evans, but his gimmick name, also alliteration, Chubby Checker, going into the Hall of Fame this year. And I picked his most well-known song from 1960. This is "The Twist."
Come on, baby, let's do the twist. Come on, baby, let's do the twist. Take me by my little hand and go like this. Yeah, twist, baby, twist.
So yeah, that song, just a massive hit. It actually went to #1 twice on 2 different chart runs, which is pretty crazy. But here's something I didn't know until recently. This was a cover. It was originally done by Hank Ballard and the Midnighters, and it was a decent hit with them. But then Chubby does it, and it took off like a rocket. It actually inspired a sequel song called "Let's Twist Again," another big hit, as well as other twist-based songs.
Yes, that's his gimmick, is the twist.
Yes. But he also did dance songs about the pony, the fly, the hucklebuck, even Limbo, the version of Limbo Rock that you hear at every wedding and bar mitzvah. That's Chubby Checker. That's him. So if we look at him as like the biggest dance craze singer of all time, then I'm a bit shocked it took him this long to get in, Dakota.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, and again, the rock hall is interesting, and I think too the voting body changes and the politics change. Where I think for a while he was just like, well, he was the guy that did the twist. It was a cover. He's not like a songwriter, and he had lot of twist variations, but didn't do much after that. And so I think for the longest time, most people just were like, that's not enough to get in. But it's one of those things where just after a while, when someone like Chubby Checker shows up on the ballot, a lot of the voters will just look at it and be like, "Wait, he's not in the Hall of Fame," and they'll just kind of will put him in. And I mean, I think that's, again, for better or for worse. I think that's the concern sometimes with Hall of Fame voting is, sometimes after time you lose kind of context of certain performers or wrestlers, thinking about the observer, and some people might get in without the context. Again, I don't think he's like a Randy Orton, but it's someone where, like, right now Randy Orton doesn't get a lot of support, but in 30 years, people are like, look how many pay-per-views he main evented, and then he's got to go in, something like that. So that, I think is part of it. I think I'm trying to remember, for a little while, I think it was only like a year or two, they had a singles category in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Is this something that you've heard about or you're aware of at all?
I don't remember that, no.
So just a couple years, I think the it was always apparently the pet project of Little Steven, from Bruce Springsteen and The Sopranos fame.
Sopranos. Yeah, of course. Syl, yeah.
Yep, and they did it for a couple years, and I think the twist was one of the first inductees in there, and it was kind of a way to recognize people like Chubby Checker, who maybe had a huge song that was very important and influential in rock and roll, but maybe didn't have enough of a career to get in. And so that was kind of the way to like backdoor some people in. But I think it only lasted a couple years and then it kind of stopped and they kind of lost relevancy for it. So it might have been that he got in with that and then everyone's like, okay, we're good. And then it kind of came back around to getting him in for real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. 2018 to 2020, it looks like was this thing. And yeah, the twist is on there. Rumble by Link Ray, Whiter Shade of Pale by Procol Harum, Born to Be Wild, Tequila, Twist and Shout, Leader of the Pack, Wooly Bully. So yeah, it's 50s and 60s, that old time period of songs that were very influential in the rock and roll sphere. Which makes sense. I mean, there's, I think the Grammys do something similar with that as well.
Yeah, I think there is like a Grammy Hall of Fame or something for songs, or I don't know. But
yeah, but with Chubby, the funny thing is, like, he had lobbied for years,
yes,
I think, for the Hall to put him in. Then when he finally does get in, he's like, I'm not going to the ceremony, actually. I have a gig, which is kind of a baller move, I guess,
It's very interesting, and I just, the podcast I plugged earlier, just did an episode about it, and I think the title was Chubby Checker's being weird about the Hall of Fame, because I think he put out a full-page ad in, like, a paper in New York once, like, trying to get into, like, imploring people to put him in the Hall of Fame. I think he stood outside of a ceremony or the museum or once with, like, signs like "Don't forget about Chubby" and things like that. And yeah, now he's in, and they did this thing in, oh man, I'm trying to remember. It was like Des Plaines, Illinois. He was doing like a show, and they like gave him his trophy there at the show, his like Hall of Fame statue, um, and filmed it. And so people are like, I guess maybe he's not coming to the Hall of Fame. So I who knows? Again, rock, people are interesting. Rock stars are very interesting too. So
Yeah,
who knows what's going to happen
they're
with
an
him?
odd they're an odd bunch.
Yes.
Absolutely, yes.
I
But
have one other random question about Chubby Checker. Maybe I
okay.
have other ones. Do you know where he got his gimmick name from?
I think I read it, but I can't remember it off the top of my head.
So it's a play on Fats Domino,
Oh, that's right. Yep, I
which
remember
was
now.
not something I put together until I was listening to and reading stuff about Chubby Checker. But I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. There it is. So there he is.
We were only missing a guy named Tubby Chess.
There you
Just
go. Yeah,
one of those
and
guys.
coming soon.
Yeah, yeah. But all right. So next one here. This is our first female inductee of the episode, who just ended her farewell tour a little over a month ago. This is Cyndi Lauper, and I actually went with a song from one of her later albums. It's called "Shine" from 2004, and this song is called "Shine."
Do you know my name? Well, I ain't gonna take that big time line. Won't be beat by a lie. Gonna call out to these embers waiting to ignite. Gonna pull you up by your love, and tell you, sure, I'll stand by you. Don't try and push me away, 'cause I'm just gonna stay. You can shine, I won't deny you, and don't be afraid, it'll all be okay. I can see it from you wear all around like some faded crown, like a watch overwhelmed. Gonna call down to
So I know the word icon gets tossed around a lot, but Cyndi Lauper is a legitimate icon, much like Sting. In that she not only had a bunch of hits, but she's also a huge influence in terms of her music, her fashion style, her feminist and gay rights advocacy, and being this quirky alt punk chick who is also a mainstream pop star. And she also did the music for Kinky Boots, which won a bunch of Tonys. She's 75% of the way towards an EGOT. And I know I could have played, any of her 80s or 90s hits, but I wanted to play that song to show that her talent wasn't confined to one time period. Like, yeah, people remember her 80s run the most because of the songs and the outfits and the music videos and rock and wrestling and that stuff. But take away all of that, she is still an amazingly talented singer-songwriter, and I think a very well-deserved inductee, Dakota.
Yeah, I think definitely, and that was, I'll admit I have not listened to much of Cyndi Lauper outside of her, 80s period, but this song's great, and her voice is still fantastic. She delivers a great performance in it, and it's just a very good pop song. And yeah, I agree. It was just fantastic. How did you run into this song? That's what I'm interested in.
I heard it on a podcast many years ago, and it always just kind of stuck with me, I guess, because, yeah, I don't dig too deep into Cyndi Lauper's catalog. I mainly stick to, her best-known stuff from the earlier eras, but, yeah, like I said, it's nice to see these classic artists and to maybe go further into their timeline and see, like, oh yeah, they still have it. They still have the talent, no matter what year they're in, really, Dakota.
Yeah, no, that's great. And you can even hear, I mean, again, it's her voice still sounds very, there's parts of it that kind of evoke girls just want to have fun, or some of the vocal tones and inflections from her 80s hits, and she still got it, 20 years later or whatever. So it's pretty impressive. And it said icon, and I had that written down in my notes too. And that's, especially like an 80s icon. Like she just is like one of the people when you think of 80s music, she's not like the Mount Rushmore with like Prince, Michael Jackson, Madonna, but she's maybe that like next tier. And I think a lot of things I heard people is like, if a kid is gonna like dress up as like someone from the 80s, they're probably gonna dress like Cyndi Lauper or Madonna. Like those are the two
Yep.
like people. And so to me, she's kind of similar to like Sergeant Slaughter in a way, if we look at like a wrestling Hall of Famer where he obviously had a bigger run in some run in the 70s and stuff, but like he is an icon of like 80s wrestling and very famous. But took him a long time to get into the Hall of Fame. I think he got in last year. I should have checked this beforehand. Similar to Cindy, like took her a long time to get into the Hall of Fame because she was just both of them were kind of just not quite at that tippy top level. But after time, the appreciation just built and built, and then they got in. And her Girls Just Want to Have Fun and her major hits are just some of the like best pop songs of all time, especially like in that 80s lens.
Yeah, anyone who writes a song like She Bop, which is this super catchy song about female masturbation, that's an icon right there.
I was
That's a
wondering if you were gonna
trailblazer.
pick that one. I was thinking about it and I'm like, nah, I don't know. We're gonna have some other, songs that's in a similar vein that might be a we'll see how we talk about them on the pod.
If you want to know as well where she stands among her peers, her last show had Cher, Joni Mitchell, John Legend, and SZA show up as special guests. I mean, what a lineup!
That
I
is
mean,
a diverse group of individuals in all senses.
yeah. The only thing missing was Captain Lou Albano, I think. So, yeah, nothing but huge respect for Cindy, Dakota.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
All right, another posthumous inductee here, died in 2014. This is Joe Cocker. And he did write his own songs, but all of his best-known stuff was covers. And this is a cover of a Traffic song off of his debut album, With a Little Help from My Friends. This is Feelin' Alright.
Seems I've got to have a chance to see you. Every night I have the strangest dream. Imprisoned by the way I could have been left you on my own arm. So it seems like I've got to leave before I start to scream. 'Cause someone locked the door and took the key. Feeling alright. I'm not feeling too good myself. Yes, sir. Feeling alright. I'm not feeling that good myself. Why you such a me?
Yeah, that song has to be in the Commercials Hall of Fame because the amount of ads that have used that song over the years is astronomical. But it's a great cover, and Joe Cocker's voice is so distinct and so powerful and just so soulful too. Like, everybody knows his version of A Little Help from My Friends because it was the Wonder Years theme.
Yep.
And yeah, it's a Beatles song, but he makes it his own because of that voice and that bluesy style of his. So, yeah, You Are So Beautiful, Up Where We Belong, You Can Leave Your Hat On, Mad Dogs and Englishmen is a big live album of his. And, oh yeah, he also performed at Woodstock. So, quite the resume there, Dakota.
Yeah, he's got this kind of iconic career of and these kind of two peaks where in the like 60s he had a lot of the covers and the Woodstock performance, and then came back kind of in the 80s with these big like ballads. So had a very interesting career too, and I'm glad you picked this on because this is I don't listen to a ton of Joe Cocker, but this is by far my favorite. It's just so lively and driving and energetic, that it's always a great go-to song sometimes if you need a little pick me up.
Yeah, and the bass player on this song as well is someone we'll talk about later on, actually. So a little hint, a little teaser of that, Dakota.
Yes, and not one of this song, but some of those 80s ballads has a piano player on them that we will also talk about later. Don't know if you knew that one, but there it is. Um, yeah, and he's again, an interesting career. I think of like I don't know if I promise I'm not going to try to make tenuous wrestling connections too much, but he kind of is like he had this like iconic performance at Woodstock, right? But then after that, like, did good, but not a ton. So it's almost like I can't think of an exact wrestling comp, but someone who had like a very good performance at like one of the very first WrestleManias, and then after that kind of petered out. But they had this just, I think that Woodstock performance is so legendary that that just kind of really carried him and got him into the Hall of Fame later on. Like, I think, makes me think of maybe someone like a Junkyard Dog or something like that. But that's pushing it a little bit. But very enjoyable, a great interpreter of rock songs, a lot of people would
Hmm.
say, and exciting to have him in the Hall of Fame.
Yep, definitely, and proof that you don't need to write your own stuff to be a great rock star. You could do covers and make them your own, and people will still think of you fondly, Dakota.
Yeah, and he definitely put his own spin on things.
Yep. All right, so Dakota, this is your first pick here, your first inductee. So please introduce us to this one.
All right, so my first inductee I'll talk about is Outkast, um, who probably is like the headliner of this class, and probably like just a slam dunk group to get in. They've got the critical acclaim, they've got the record sales, they've got influence. Again, those aren't technically categories for the Hall of Fame, but I'll use them. And so the first song I picked is one off of what's my favorite albums of theirs, kind of before they really hit it big commercially, which was Aquemini, and this is called Spody Odie Dopalicious. Yeah, so that's like if I had to pick my favorite Outkast song, I think that's usually my go-to. And I wanted to pick it too because it's not one of their big hits. So I wanted to kind of shine a light on something else that I thought was just great that they did. And it's a great song too because it's very different. It's not. I mean, they still have some. It's not really a hip hop song. There's a lot more just kind of like spoken word stuff in it, and almost like slam poetry, beat poetry. But that horn hook is just so great that the whole song is undeniable. But it's really, I feel like shows Outcasts, a lot of more of their kind of funk influences and jazz influence and stuff like that, and how they work that into their music too. So it's one of my favorites, but it's a 7 minute long song with a lot of instrumentation and spoken word stuff. So it's not the most accessible Outcast song. I'll admit that.
Hmm. Well, first of all, shout out to Florida Evans. Damn, damn, damn. Yeah, this song proves that I think calling Outkast just a rap group is maybe a bit reductive, because they can do funky, penny-dropping soul music, just as well as everybody else can, and they can also do fun party anthems, they can do social commentary, they can do spoken word, they can do weird alien shit. They can do it all, baby. And as I've said before, my Outkast knowledge leans toward the mainstream stuff, the hits, Stankonia, Speaker Box, The Love Below. But this is quite the groovy number. It's a bit Parliament Funkadelic, I think, in vibes, Dakota.
Yeah, that's exactly kind of what I was feeling, and that's I feel like Outkast really took the like Afrofuturism styles of Parliament Funkadelic and kind of carried them on, and you can see especially in Andre 3000 a lot of kind of Bootsy Collins, George Clinton going on there, and I actually saw Parliament Funkadelic with George Clinton, who I don't know, it's like 83 or something, live this summer, and it was a fantastic show. But as I was listening to them, yeah, you really notice too, like I mean, they've got their some of their big hits and stuff, but they're really just like kind of freeform funk. Like they don't really have songs. I mean, they do, but it's all just kind of blends together and flows and vibes, and it's great. I mean, I think Mothership Connection is one of the best albums of all time. But like, if you told me to pick my favorite song off there, I'm like, I don't know. I just listen to the whole like thing, it's just the whole album. But they definitely kind of carried that forward, with their Atlians and all the other sort of stuff that they do.
Mm-hmm. Well, I picked my own Outkast song of a different speed than your pick, literally. This is from Stankonia. This is the big hit B.O.B. Bombs Over Baghdad.
Those traces on. Did you ever think of pimp rock a microphone like that there boy? We still stay street. Big things happen every time we meet. Like a track team, crack team, dying to geek. Outkast bumping up and down the street. Slam back, Cadillac, by 5 niggas, D, 75 MCs, freestyle to the beat. Cause we get drunk, stay drunk at the club. Should've bought an ounce, but you caught the dub. Should've held back, but you throw the punch. Supposed to meet you good, but you packed the lunch. No D to the U to the G for you. Got a son on the way by the name of Bamboo. Got a little baby girl for a year, Jordan. Never turn my back on my kids for them. Should've hit it with it. Rag top, before you re-up, get a laptop. Make a business for yourself, boy, set some goals. Make a fat dime out of dusty cold. Record number 4, but we on the road. Hold up, slow up, stop, control like Janet. Planet, stay on it's on ya. Moving like floor, come straight to Florida. Lock all your windows and block the quarters. Put it up on belt, cause the women's in order. Like a 3-piece bitch before I cut your daughter. You kettle Taco Bell, then I hit the border. Penny Pat rapper trying to get the 5. I'm a microphone fiend trying to stay alive. When you come to ATL, well, you bet not high, cause the Dungeon family gon' ride.
Yeah, it's crazy that song came out like 2 years before the Iraq War started.
Yeah,
It's
like
crazy.
three even, I think. But yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, that's my favorite Outkast song. It's so maximal. There's just so many elements there with the ludicrous speed rapping, the choir, the keyboards, the guitar solo. Like, there's a guitar solo in this son of a bitch,
Mm-hmm.
And I love the double entendre chorus. Don't pull the thing out unless you plan to bang. Bombs over Baghdad. Yeah. It's a whole big to-do. And I think it's a great combination of the rap side of Outkast, the funk side, the rock side, and the pop side as well, Dakota.
Yeah, I was gonna say in that I'm glad you picked this song to kind of go with my pick because it shows really their versatility. And again, similarly to Parliament Funkadelic, like they could get very rock oriented and guitar oriented and heavy, and Outkast does that great on this song. And some of my I think those are some of my favorites off Stankonia. Like I think Gasoline Dreams is the opener and also has a similar like very hard rock uh guitar based edge to it, and so just really showing their versatility and how they're just world class musicians, like in every sense of the word.
Hmm. I'm just wondering if they're going to perform at the ceremony, because it's
Yeah.
been about, I think, 10 years since the last time they were on stage together. And, I think it'd be really cool if they did, a few songs there, Dakota.
Last I heard, they still hadn't announced anything yet, and I think the ceremony's in like 3 or 4 weeks, so everyone's guess is they're really trying to get them to agree to it, and they're gonna wait. They're not gonna say anything until they know for sure. So it would be awesome if they performed. I guess we'll just have to see.
Yeah. Just have Andre leave the flute at home, please. I think we'll be better off.
Maybe he's demanding it, and that's the holdup right now.
Oh yeah, of course. Flute or nothing at all. Yeah. But all right. But my next inductee here. This is a band from the Pacific Northwest, the birthplace of grunge, and it's one of the big grunge bands, Soundgarden. And Chris Cornell, Kim Thayil, Matt Cameron, Hiro Yamamoto, and Ben Shepherd are the ones going in. And I picked a song off their big album, Super Unknown. This is Spoon Man.
All my friends are Indians. All my friends are brown and red. All my friends are scared of dance. Beat the rhythm with their bones. Spoonman. Spoonman. Come together with your hands. Save me. I'm together with your plans. Save me.
Yeah, R.I.P. Chris Cornell, of course. That's not just one of my favorite Soundgarden songs. It's one of their more interesting ones, I think, because it has 3 different time signatures, and it also has one of my favorite breakdowns in a song with the drum solo, and then the bass comes in, come on while I get off, come on while I get off, and then it explodes back into the full energy of the band. It's just a great song, and like a lot of other grunge bands, Soundgarden's heyday was only a few years, 92 to 97 was their mainstream peak. But they packed a lot in there with Jesus Christ Pose, Rusty Cage, Black Hole Sun, Day I Tried to Live, Fell on Black Days, Blow Up the Outside World. And then they also got back together later on and did some more stuff before Chris died and sounded just as good. They even did a song for the first Avengers movie, Live to Rise. So yeah, they hit some dingers there for sure, Dakota.
Yeah, and Spoon Man's definitely one of I think Fell on Black Days and Spoon Man are like my favorite Soundgarden songs. And I feel like in the grunge era, they're like one of the big 4, and Nirvana and Pearl Jam are already in, so it's them. And I feel like Alice in Chains is probably number 4, so that's the one that's going to come up now. So I think getting more, representation of such a massive part of rock music history with grunge is probably one of the main reasons why they're in, and I think pretty deservedly so.
Mm-hmm. And it's going to make Matt Cameron a 2-time inductee.
That's right,
because he's also in Pearl Jam there.
Mhm.
So yeah, and on the very, very off chance that they ever induct Temple of the Dog, he'll be a 3-timer. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I don't know if that one would happen, but you never know. You never know. I've never looked into this song, and I feel like it's in the music video. There's literally like a guy playing spoons, right? Like percussion instruments.
It's based off like a street performer
Okay.
that they knew. Yeah, up there. So yeah, a literal spoon man playing the spoons.
That's
So,
what I
yeah.
thought, and my recent thought is, I think it was in one of our Discord music leagues. They had the great Spinner song "Rubber Band Man," which sounds like about a guy playing a rubber band as an instrument. So I feel like we got to get these people together here, get a real super group.
Spoons, rubber bands, get some forks, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I
Any?
don't know, jug band, washboard, all the old timey instruments.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, some people thought it was about drugs, but yeah, it's artist the Spoon Man, a street performer from Santa Cruz, California, and later Seattle. So yeah, the more you know, folks. The
Mm-hmm.
more you know. But okay, one more main performer inductee here, and it's one of yours, Dakota. So who you got?
Yeah, so this is another duo that people are wondering if they'll get back together and perform for the ceremony, and I
Mm.
still don't think we know. But this is the White Stripes, and I picked the song, one of their songs off one of their later albums. This is called Catch Hell Blues.
Well, if they catch me around, you're playing rock the boat, I'm gonna catch hell. And if you're throwing your voice in bed singing a note, I'm gonna catch hell. I know it. Yes, sir. Try and catch me.
Yeah, so just a great blues rock song. And I think when I was on last year for the like year in review show, you had one of Jack White's solo songs, and I think we said the same thing. Like, we just need a good blues rock song. Jack White, you're not going to go wrong. And it's the same thing with the White Stripes. And this, I wanted to pick one of their kind of lesser known tracks off one of their later albums, because I think, obviously Elephant and White Blood Cells get a lot of the attention, and those are the big hits. But I mean, I think Icky Thump and Get Behind Me Satan, their last two albums are still fantastic and have just a ton of great songs on them. And this is just one of my favorite, just kind of straight ahead rockers that they have.
Yeah, Jack White has the kind of career where he can be inducted like 6 times over, just because of how many bands he's been in over the years. But the White Stripes is the core of it all. And yeah, I'm glad you went with a deep cut and not like Seven Nation Army, because I've heard enough of that song, I think, over the
Yeah,
years.
you've heard enough of it at sporting events for the
Yeah.
rest of your life, probably.
And I feel like there are just so many lesser known White Stripes songs like this one with a guitar riff that is just as killer. It's a
Mhm.
cliche, but Jack White makes that guitar wail like a banshee. And Meg's drumming is as simple as it tends to be, but I've said before, it's exactly what it needs to be to complement Jack's playing. It's a perfect pairing, Dakota.
Yeah. Oh no, it's fantastic, and they're a band that I've listened to a lot of White Stripes, and they're one I feel like they have a very low, not low, very high floor. They might not get up to that like highest of ceilings where I feel like they have an all-time classic song or all-time, five-star album, but they're just consistently great. Like, cause and when I was trying to even pick a deep cut for this, I think I made a list of like 15 different songs that I'm like, ooh, I should do this one or ooh, this one. And so they just have so many good ones and a lot of variety too. Again, early on, they're very simple garage rock, and they were kind of lumped in with that kind of garage rock revival in the early 2000s. But especially as they go on later, they kind of start to do a little bit more experimentation and have some kind of different sounds in there, and um, a lot of variety in there too. So just great stuff. I mean, I'm trying to think of some of the other songs I really liked. There's a song called Little Acorns, which talks about a squirrel. It metaphorically, that's a really good song. um Let's Build a House Together. They just have so many. I think there's one called Jumble Jumble, and just a lot of great songs.
Hmm. And you said earlier there, yeah, the big question, of course, will Meg White actually show up? Because she's been out of sight, out of mind for many years now, ever since the band ended. And I know that she's a very shy person, so odds are she might not be there. But if she does make it, and if she actually performs a song or two as well, I mean, that would be major, major news, Dakota. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think either, I feel like maybe Outkast a little more likely. But if they could get one or two of those bands to perform, that'd be pretty awesome. Um, yeah, I mean, I feel like Jack White, he's good. He'll perform. He performs at a lot of
Oh yeah,
things. Not going to
he'll
be a problem.
yeah.
But I think that would be hopefully they'd get together and play. That'd be great. But if not, there's a lot of great albums to look back for with them.
Mm-hmm. All right, so up next we have the musical influence category, which was originally the early influence category. And this is a category where a committee picks them, not the voting base. And I have some thoughts about this category and the next one, but
Yes,
I'll
I
save
bet
that
you
for
do.
I'll save that for
They're
later.
interesting.
We'll get to that later. But we'll play the music first. This is the last inductee of my group. This is Salt-N-Pepa, or as Patrick Stewart said on SNL, Salt-N-Pepa. Yeah, it's Salt-N-Pepa, DJ Spinderella. And for my pick, they are joined by some other very talented ladies, En Vogue. This is off of the album Very Necessary. This is What a Man.
In my world, and although most men are hoes, he flows on the down low, cause I never heard about him with another girl. But I don't sweat it, because it's just pathetic to let it get me involved in that he said, she said crowd. I know that ain't nobody perfect, I give props to those who deserve it, and believe me, y'all, he's worth it. So here's to the future, cause we got through the past. I finally found somebody that could make me laugh. You so crazy, I think I wanna have your baby. My man is smooth like Barry and his voice got bass. A body like Arnold with a Denzel face. He's smart like a doctor.
So I know Salt-N-Pepa sang a version of that song at WrestleMania 11 to hype up Lawrence Taylor. But in my mind, all I can think of is the sexy photo of them with Bret Hart. I can't help it. It's just... But this is another song that's a cover. It's a rap remake of a soul song from '68 by an artist named Linda Lindell. And it's got such a memorable hook by En Vogue, a memorable groove and rhythm. And I love how Salt-N-Pepa in their verses are like, yeah, I have a man who's monogamous, he's handsome, he's respectful, he's cool. And then Spinderella is apparently just super horny. But not this man, he's got the right potion. Baby, rub it down and make it smooth like lotion. Yeah, the ritual, highway to heaven. From 7 to 7, he's got me open like 7-Eleven. For those lines alone, they belong in the Hall of Fame, Dakota.
I'm just dead. I'm dead over here. You just killed me by reading that out loud. Oh my gosh. I mean, you're always good for reading some rap lyrics on the podcast, and that was just top-notch stuff. Yeah, no, I agree. This is one where I think earlier I maybe had mentioned like I don't know how we're going to talk about some of these songs. This is one I'm like, it's a good song. I like the rapping. I like the beat. Uh, I'm a middle-aged white man, so I don't know if I'm going to say much more about it than that. But there's I'm trying to remember which part. The one part that I always remember this song is where they say that's not it, but with this like inflection, or like that's not it, and that just sticks in my head all the time. That's my favorite part of the song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in all seriousness, I am glad that Salt-N-Pepa are getting their due, because they were a big act in their heyday in the 80s and 90s with, this and Push It, Shoop, Let's Talk About Sex. I mean, they were the first female rap group to go gold and platinum in the US, and I think they, Queen Latifah, MC Lyte, they all helped lay the foundation for women in rap. So yeah, I'm glad that whatever category they're going in, they're getting into the Hall of Fame at all, Dakota.
Yeah, and I think and you said you were going to talk about it more, but this, yeah, kind of musical influence category, what used to be early influence. So originally it was a lot of like pre-rock and roll bands, some of the earlier blues artists and things like that, and singers and artists, has kind of been used now to help get other influence, which makes sense. As we move further along, you're going to need different influences, and I think it's a way to, as you see other artists coming up on the horizon that probably need to be inducted, um, you think like, well, we should probably get some of these earlier groundbreaking trailblazing artists in. So if people in the hall are feeling like, oh, TLC or someone like that should be inducted or nominated, then it's like, well, if we're going to nominate them, we probably should get Salt-N-Pepa in first. And so this kind of committee category has been used for that. But again, as you said, their influence is very, very big, and they're kind of one of the trailblazers for female hip hop groups.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so who's your next inductee there, Warren?
So my next inductee is singer-songwriter from Los Angeles, which is where the induction ceremony is being held this year. This is Warren Zevon, who had one really big hit, but has had a very long career of great music. And the song I picked is off of his, I believe, 1987 album Sentimental Hygiene, and it is not about Colt Cabana, but it is called Boom Boom Mancini.
Mancini's fighting Bobby Chacon. From Youngstown, Ohio, they Boom Boom Mancini, a lightweight contender, like father, like son. He fought for the title with Rios in Vegas, and he put him away in round number 1. So hurry home early, hurry on home. Boom Boom Mancini's fighting Bobby Chacon. Hurry home early, hurry on home. Boom Boom Mancini's fighting Bobby Chacon.
Yeah, so Warren Zevon, most known for his gigantic hit, Werewolves of London. But beyond that, he had just a great career of just putting out just fantastic music and albums, very much as a rock and roll singer songwriter. And I wanted to pick something, again, a little lesser known of him, so I wasn't going to go with Werewolves of London. And the album that's on Excitable Boy is probably his most well known album. So I wanted to go with something a little bit later. And this was always one that I liked, and it's a very simple song, but it really shows off his songwriting ability and just writing a song about a character. A lot of his songs are very kind of character driven, and also with this doesn't have it as much, but usually a lot of very dark, cynical humor in his music. But this is just like an autobiographical song about a real life boxer named Ray Boom Boom Mancini, and just kind of sings about his career and this, everyone wanting to hurry home to see the fight. And there's really not much to it, but it's just sung so well. It's got the driving beat, kind of like a boom boom beat, and guitar playing and everything. And it's just always one of my favorite songs of his.
Yeah, you hear terms like comedian's comedian or wrestler's wrestler. I think Warren Zevon was the singer-songwriter, where, yeah, he's not the biggest name around, but if you know your stuff, then you know Warren Zevon. And yeah, he had such a talent for writing these songs that are simultaneously cynical and touching a dark subject, but are also really catchy or beautiful or funny, like Excitable Boy or Carmelita.
Yes. Excitable Boy is very much so.
Yeah, or Keep Me in Your Heart, which is like the saddest song ever about confronting your own imminent death. And this song, it has that hefty blues trudge to it. The refrain gets stuck in your head. Hurry home early. Hurry on home. And I think it also shows his capacity for compassion as well, because it references Ray boxing a guy named Duk-Koo Kim.
Yep.
And after it was over, Kim died, like just a few days later, because of the severity of the match. And Warren is trying to defend Ray here over it, blaming the promoters and the doctors and the sport of boxing itself even. So, yeah, just a really interesting musician and someone who I'm really glad is going into the Hall of Fame this year, Dakota.
Yeah, and that, I mean, I pretty much agree with all of your points. But that first thing when you're talking about like, yeah, this is like he's like a singer-songwriter, which is exactly the thing I was thinking of like, he's in that vein of like him or Harry Nilsson or John Prine or I can't think of the other one, Todd someone. Rundgren.
Todd Rundgren.
Of like
Yep.
these are like your like favorite favorite artists. Like they're your favorite, whoever your favorite is, like these are the people that they love the most because they are just pure like distillations of talent and maybe don't have the fame and success that others do, but they have the goods. And yeah, his stuff is just fantastic. And again, a lot of dark and sometimes but very like plain spoken humor, great imagery, great characters, that sort of stuff. And yeah, you mentioned the whole kind of, there's a whole bunch in this song. Part of the reason I also had to shout out is a song about a boxer, because uh, I do live in Omaha, Nebraska now, and we do have the world champion and greatest boxer of all time, Terrence Crawford now. So just watched that fight, and so I had to shout that out. Which they're singing about hurrying home early, and I watched that fight, and they didn't start boxing until like
Yeah.
midnight. So I don't know, hurrying
Yeah.
home early from the bars maybe is what he's saying, but it's a very nice chorus in that it kind of gives you this just sense of like like this is like an event and everyone's excited for it, and it really makes it sound cool. And I thought that part was great. And then yeah, they talk about he did have a fight where he fought this Duk-Koo Kim, and who he beat him, and then moments after kind of a wrestling connection, moments after the match he fainted and went into a coma and had a subdural hematoma and ended up dying a few days later. And it really um, was very hard on Mancini as well, who obviously felt a lot of guilt with that and dealt with that for the rest of his career. But I think they even did make some changes. I wanted to say I read like title fights. They shortened the number of rounds they could go and made some other changes because of that. But it was a big ordeal.
Mm-hmm. I also picked a Zevon song here. This is from a few years earlier, 76, off his self-titled album. And this song is called Desperados Under the Eaves.
Don't the sun look angry through the trees? Don't the trees look like crucified thieves? Don't you feel like desperados under the eaves? Heaven help the one who leaves. Still waking up in the mornings with shaking hands, and I'm trying to find a girl who understands me, but except in dreams you're never really free. Don't the sun look angry at me? I was sitting in the Hollywood Hawaiian Hotel. I was listening to the air conditioner hum.
Yeah, what a song. I mean, the piano, the strings, and the backing vocals from Carl Wilson, J.D. Souther, Jackson Brown. It's a gorgeous song about being an alcoholic and living in this shitty LA motel and having to avoid paying the bill. I love these lines. And if California slides into the ocean, like the mystics and statistics say it will, I predict this motel will be standing until I pay my bill. Still waking up in the mornings with shaking hands, and I'm trying to find a girl who understands me, but except in dreams, you're never really free. Don't the sun look angry at me? Like, you can feel the alcoholic sweat just pouring through the song. And the sweeping ending, look away down Grower Avenue. I get chills every time I hear it. It's a masterpiece, Dakota.
Yeah, it's great. And those are, some of those lyrics that you read off really just stood out to me too. The mystics and statistics is just a great line of, I mean, obviously it's just a great rhyme, and then it's excellent in showing these like two opposing viewpoints, but kind of how they kind of come together, and the great line about, yeah, the hotel will be standing until I pay my bill. This song really, again, Boom Boom Mancini was just kind of a great like straight ahead rock song about a character. This really shows his like clever lyricism and everything that he puts into his songs. And yeah, you can feel just how harsh the sun is on him waking up in the morning with a splitting headache or whatever he was ailing him, and just fantastic stuff.
Mm-hmm. And I just read that David Letterman is going to induct him, which I think is perfect because Letterman was a huge Warren Zevon fan. He actually devoted a whole episode to him before his death. And, that's where we got the famous quote, "Enjoy every sandwich," from Zevon there. So yeah, I'm really glad to see him, getting his flowers here for sure.
Yeah, that I was gonna say he was very good friends with Letterman and on the show a lot, and yep, had that famous episode because then his last album, I believe, called The Wind, recorded kind of knowing he was dying, and that whole episode was again kind of him knowing that, and Letterman knowing that he was dying and kind of giving him this chance to do that, which just heart wrenching stuff. And I think Letterman's even like at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I don't remember if he was inducting someone else or what, or introducing someone, but he's even like said like, "Hey, let's get Warren Zevon in here." So he's been promoting it for a while, and yeah, it's just he's one of the greats, and it's good to see him get that recognition. And kind of the last thing I had on my notes for the song is, and I think it cut off right before, but that part at the end where he talks about the air conditioner humming, probably the best humming in a song, right up there with that Crash Test Dummies song. With the it
Mm-hmm.
was just fantastic stuff.
All right, so the next category, this is the award for musical excellence, which was originally called Sidemen. And this is a category that I take umbrage with because the intent is we're honoring people who might not otherwise get the recognition. So you've got people like Glenn Johns, Randy Rhoads, Bernie Taupin. Okay, that's fine. But you also have Judas Priest, Jimmy Buffett, Shaka Khan, the MC5, LL Cool J, Ringo Starr. Like, these are main performer category people. And them being in this category, it does come off to me as a consolation prize. And I also feel the same way about Salt-N-Pepa and Zevon being in the influence category. Like, yes, they are very influential, but so is Cyndi Lauper, so are the White Stripes, so are Outkast, so are the MC5 and Ringo Starr. Like these categories, I understand they have good intentions, but they do muddy the waters a bit, Dakota. Am I alone in that thought?
Oh no, not at all. And they and it doesn't make sense because it's so that's why they keep changing them. But then they go back and forth because yeah, like kind of like I was saying with Salt-N-Pepa, like sometimes it's like if an artist doesn't get in for a while, like I think LL Cool J was on the ballot for a long time, and it got to the point where he wasn't getting in, and they're like, we need to. And part of it is, some of the problems with the hall where it's like, well, we can only really have like one hip hop rap group get in every year, which isn't an actual rule, but seems to be what happens in the voting. So they're like, well, we better just put him in so that we can nominate Outkast and Wu-Tang Clan or all these other hip hop groups that aren't in yet or haven't been nominated yet. So they kind of just there's no rules, so they just make them up. But then they go back. So like this year now, like the musical excellence category really is what it was supposed to be, which was originally, yes, the sideman category. So it was a lot of session musicians or, again, people who wouldn't get the votes probably because they're not as well known, but had that influence or impact that needs to be appreciated. Which again, someone like Salt-N-Pepa or Warren Zevon, if you put them on the ballot, probably would have gotten in. So it's kind of weird, but the Rock Hall's gonna rock hall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, despite what I just said there, I do think the three people who are in this category this year are all good picks for this category and are all worthy of induction, Dakota.
Yeah, it works. And then next year they'll put like Iron Maiden in the musical excellence category. So
no, of course they will.
Whatever. As they get in, they get in. I guess we'll just take it. And that's where they really now I think they've gotten into where it's like it doesn't matter. Like being in the Rock Hall is being in the Rock Hall, and there's really not a distinction between I got voted in as a performer versus I got one of these committee things. Like they're all just kind of the same. And part of it too with the Rock Hall is it's an event and it's a performance and it's a TV show, and they also want to get names in there to draw money. So that kind of comes into it too sometimes. I don't know if any of these people will be drawing money though, but I'm excited to talk about them.
Yeah, so who is the first inductee to this category, Dakota?
So the first one is one of a major session bass player. Her name is Kaye. She was part of what was called the Wrecking Crew, which was a session group in Los Angeles for many, many years. And I don't think there's any official statistics, but one that gets thrown around for her is she may be the most recorded bass player in the history of all music or something like that. So has a lot to stand on. Her name is Kaye. I believe she's 90 years old now and finally getting some recognition here. So I have a couple of her songs, and the first one is a bass she played on a Ray Charles song called "I Don't Need No Doctor."
I don't need no doctor, 'cause I know what's ailing me. I don't need no doctor, no, 'cause I know what's ailing me. I've been too long away from a baby. Oh, I'm coming down with a misery. I don't need no doctor for my prescription to be filled. I don't need no doctor, I tell you now, for my prescription to be filled. I don't need no doctor. Only the baby's on.
Yeah, so that was just a great Ray Charles song, and Ray Charles is someone always on my list of like people I need to listen to more, because anytime I hear any of his stuff, I just love it. And this is just a good song and very good just nice kind of driving bass line with it that Kaye provided, and not anything too flashy or whatnot, just doing her job in the background there. And but again, kind of keeping the train going with Ray Charles, and just a fun song, and it's one that I've really learned to love and discovered kind of looking up stuff about Kaye.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the give and take, of being a session player is people might not know your name or your face, but they've heard you because you play on their favorite records without them even knowing, and with Kaye, she's everywhere, much like the rest of the Wrecking Crew. She is all over the 60s and 70s, Pet Sounds, she's on it. Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves, she's on it. Forever Changes, she's on it. The Batman TV show theme and the Mission Impossible theme, she's on it.
No.
So yeah, she's really weaved her way into the fabric of music history, Dakota.
Yeah, she has, and I think she was on Good Vibrations, probably a bunch of other Beach Boys stuff, and even on Feeling All Right that we talked about earlier. I don't remember if we mentioned her by name or just kinda teased it, but she was playing the bass on that one too.
Yep, yep.
So just a great long career, and pretty much all the other Wrecking Crew musicians like Hal Blaine, have been in the Rock Hall for a long time, um, but for some reason, Carol Kaye was left out. I don't know. There are obvious things you could draw. Also, have heard that Hal Blaine and her not on the best of terms for a long time, so I think there's some uh, rivalry going on there too. But about time she got her recognition along with the rest of those kind of session musicians there.
Hmm. And what's cool is on Carol Kay's website, she has all of these like samples of her bass lines from over the years that are just isolated, and you can just listen to them on their own, which is pretty cool. So I have a little clip here of "I Don't Need No Doctor," just the bass.
Yeah.
So let's play it.
Yeah, that was just so cool, and that was one of the reasons I picked that song was finding this on her website and finding that bass line that we could play and just kind of showing the being able to listen to that is just so cool, and I really like her website for having those, but also because it looks like it was probably made by her, like, grandson in
Yeah,
1999 on GeoCities or something like
yeah.
that. Uh, so it's a very old school, website, which, kind of fits because she's not a big, gaudy, pop star. She's just a bass player and a guitarist, and she plays other instruments too. And she's just, this is just she's a musician. She does her job, and that's kind of what it is. And we found, well, you found as we were trying to put this together too. Looking at our website too, sometimes you have to take some of the credits that she has maybe with a grain of salt. There's lots of disputes in the world of session musicians on who played what, where, and when, and why, and how. So some of the tracks that she has claimed that she's on, others have disputed and kind of shown that nah, she probably wasn't. But there's a lot of again, who knows what if it was just confusion or what. But that's out there too. Reading through it, there's lots of like, well, there were demos and then final versions and then all these different versions, and sometimes like they bring the sessions musicians in and just have them like play a part, and they didn't really know who or what it was for exactly. So they just kind of played their part, and then it got recorded and put into wherever it needed to be. So there's a couple songs on there that have been disputed and maybe proven that at least on the famously recorded version she didn't play for, but it's still a fun website to look through and kind of see what some of the music that she was involved in.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine when you're as busy as she was back in the day, playing on 50 million songs, going from studio to
Yeah.
studio. You're bound to have some memory lapses, I think, in terms of what you actually did. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly, and she's, 90 now, so when they were putting the website together and she was 75, she was like, "Did I play on that? I think I played that song, 40 years ago." Um, but not discrediting her at all for just an amazing career and some great, great work.
What's the other song you picked for her?
The other song I picked, is one that it kind of puts her more at the forefront. It is by, Mel Torme, The Velvet Fog, and it is called "Games People Play."
La di da 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 da, la di da da di di di, la da 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 di di, la di da da di di. Oh, the games people play now, every night and every day now, never meaning what they say now. never seeing what they mean, while they while away the hours in their ivory tower, till they're covered up with flowers in the back of a black limousine. Though we make one another cry, break our hearts and we say goodbye, cross our hearts and we hope.
Yeah, so pick that one obviously for that kind of bass intro and just a much more flowery flourishes of the bass, throughout this one. So she gets featured a little bit more, and and you got to a little bit when you're trying to contend with that voice of Mel Torme. So I won't say I'm a Mel Torme super fan, and outside of this song and his references in Seinfeld, I don't know a lot about the guy, but he's got quite the swinging voice and puts together a nice little song here with Carol Kaye's awesome bass line.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, my dad would listen to Mel Torme, so I'm used to hearing like traditional pop and jazz crooner scat singing Mel Torme, not so much hip and cool 60s Mel Torme. But this is a really good version of the Joe South song. And yeah, that bass line from Carol is so damn good. It makes the song, I think. And you can see why she got so much work, because when you're that good, you'll never be short of a job, really. Same with Hal Blaine, same with Leon Russell and Glenn Campbell and everybody else in the Wrecking Crew, Dakota.
Yeah, totally. And the legend, at least again, gotta take everything with a grain of salt with legends, but is that the bass line for this song is that, and I don't know if the drummer, the legend is that he was like falling asleep. I don't know if he was literally falling asleep or just dragging, but at one point Carol just played this really loud bass line that you hear at the beginning of the song to kind of pick the drummer up, and I think the producer was in there recording it and was like, "No, that's it. That's the take. We're going to use that." And so she was not really expecting it to, but that's just kind of how it went. And it really makes me think, like, again, I'm not like a bass player extraordinaire, or know a ton about it, but one of the famous bass players from the kind of punk and post punk scene, Mike Watt, put out a solo album in the '90s. He was in bands like the Minutemen and Firehose, that kind of, again, if you're in the like punk post punk world, are very well known. Um, he put out a solo album that he called Tugboat or Ball Hog, because that's kind of how his philosophy of the bass was: is either you're the tugboat where you're just kind of helping pull along the big ship, and no one really notices you or gives you any credit, but you got to do your job and kind of pull it along. Or you could be a ball hog and you can take all the attention and do kind of crazy stuff. And I don't think Carol Kay was necessarily being a ball hog in the second song, but it's a little bit more of that than the tugboat side. And so I always like to point that out. And then the the fun thing about the wrestling connection now I have to make with that Mike Watt album is he always calls it his wrestling album, and the front has like a picture of pro wrestling maneuvers, like kind of in like a hand drawn sense. And he called his wrestling album because there's a lot of guest appearances on it from like a lot of pretty well-known people like Eddie Vedder and others. And he called it his wrestling album because he's like, I would just bring in my friends, like, we're gonna get in the ring and we're gonna have a match and we're gonna do something. And that was what he kind of how he considered each of those songs. So just a kind of a cool wrestling connection there. And I actually saw Mike Watt play earlier this year with his band MSSV. And he sits down most of the time. He's kind of old, but he's still rocking and rolling.
Hmm. Well, let's play the bass part here
Oh
from
yeah.
Games People Play.
Yeah, just great stuff. Very enjoyable.
Hmm. One more thing about Carol Kay. I don't know if you ever watched the show The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel on Amazon Prime by any chance.
A little bit, but I don't remember anything about her in it.
In season 3, she goes on the road with a singer, and one of the members of the singer's band is a female bass player named Carol Keane, who looks a lot like Carol Kaye, clearly based on her in some respects there. And Carol Kaye came out and was not happy at all. She was like, "This is an insult. I'm not this character. I'm not this person. Nobody contacted me about this." So yeah, she slammed it wholeheartedly. And that's not a big surprise because Carol has a reputation for being a bit testy, shall we say. So yeah, she was not a big fan of this portrayal of her, Dakota.
Yeah, I think she gets a reputation for being a little salty, but, I'd expect being a woman session musician in the 60s and 70s, you probably had to be a little salty to kinda get through it and make it in that world, so I can't blame her. I think, she's one too that I don't think is coming to the Hall of Fame ceremony. Apparently, she put out a long Facebook post, kind of decrying that she didn't wanna be involved in it, so, again, I think a lot of that has to do with her not, getting along with the other members of the Wrecking Crew, and also she had a lot of things about how she, as a session musician, she doesn't really want individual accolades as a musician or as a jazz musician, she said too. So uh, makes sense. I've heard, and I haven't watched it. I've heard there is a Wrecking Crew documentary out there that she is heavily involved in and is supposed to be very good. So something I need to put on my watch list for sure.
Mhm. But yeah, so Dakota, who is your next inductee?
Yeah, the next one is another session musician, a piano player, named Nicky Hopkins, and he was the one that I was alluding to earlier. Played on some of, also with Joe Cocker on some of his later, kind of more ballad songs in the '80s. He was played a lot with a lot of the big British bands of the '60s and '70s, especially the Kinks, and the Rolling Stones, and that's one of their songs I picked. This is Monkey Man.
I'm a pretty 15 monkey. All my friends are junkies. That's not really true. I'm a cold Italian pizza. I could use a lemon squeezer. What you do? Well, I've been bitten, I've been tossed around every she-rat in this town. Have you, babe? But I am just a monkey man. I'm glad you are a monkey woman too. I was bitten by a boar. I was gouged and I was gone.
Yeah, so this Monkey Man has always been one of my favorite Rolling Stones songs. So when I saw, that Nicky Hopkins was the one who played the piano on it, I really just had to pick it, especially with the very cool piano intro, kind of, twinkling, strong piano lines there at the beginning that bring it in, and then he's got kind of a couple sections at the end with a little more kind of piano soloing emphasized sections that are really good too. So um that was there he plays again a ton with the Kinks and the Who and a bunch of other bands, but this was always one of my favorite songs. So glad to kind of point it out here on this episode.
Yeah, Let It Bleed. That's like grade A prime cut Stones right there. And yeah, you've got Nicky on piano. You also have Bill Wyman on vibraphone, so it's a fun dynamic there. And Nicky also plays on Gimme Shelter, Live With Me, and You Got the Silver. And he was their piano guy for many years. He's on a bunch of their albums up until Tattoo You. So for that alone, that's a pretty cool career. But yeah, also working with the Kinks, Beatles, Joe Cocker, Jefferson Airplane, Rod Stewart, and many more.
Yeah, just a great career. Got to kind of be in a lot of those things, and so um, yeah, just great to hear. And you know, a Rolling Stone song called Monkey Man. I'm not gonna go into the lyrics too much. I figure, yeah, I don't really need to bother myself with that. But this was always, when Rolling Stones have just such a long career and great career, but when they do just kind of basic blues rock stuff like that, that's always my favorite Stones. I mean, it's hard not to love their big, like, epic Sympathy for the Devil type songs, but more the just blues rock with great riffs and singing and everything is usually that's where I really kind of vibe with the Stones and enjoy them a lot.
Hmm. And we should say as well that Nicky Hopkins died pretty young, actually, only 50 years old. He died from complications after intestinal surgery because he had Crohn's disease. So, yeah, another posthumous inductee there. And your last inductee, Dakota, is also posthumous.
Yep, the last one is a producer named Thom Bell, who's very famous for being one of the major drivers behind the kind of a Philadelphia soul sound in like the early to mid 70s, with a lot of great soul groups. So we're going to start this off with what I think might be one of the really best just like pop songs of all time. It's by a group called The Spinners, and it's called I'll Be Around. I mean, it's impossible not to think of the word smooth when you hear this sound, and really a lot of what Thom Bell does. Just just puts a great just shine on the songs and a smoothness to it that just makes it kind of undeniable. And again, this is one that I love, and just listening to it now, like the percussion, the bass, obviously the vocals are all great, and just work perfectly for the song. But that kind of opening like lick is just so bright and catchy, and that just is that intro, and then that carries through the song is just like perfection to me, like pop music perfection.
Yeah, that song, it's a straight up classic. Yeah, and it sounds so good too. Like, it sounds so clear and vibrant, even though it's over 50 years old at this point. And that's the mark of a good producer. It's not just writing the song and making sure that the notes and melody and everything all work. It has to sound as good coming out of the record as it does going in. And Thom Bell, I think, was on the money with this one. Great job producing it and co-writing it too, Dakota.
Yeah, yep, he did great, and you can really, and I don't think he was, ever involved later on in like, Hall and Oates, but you can kind of hear the influence on that Philadelphia sound kind of extending all the way, years later into groups like that.
Mm-hmm. And this was also the first time that the Spinners and Thom Bell worked together, and they clearly liked each other because he would produce their next 8 albums or whatever. So yeah, they had a long and fruitful partnership together for sure.
Yeah, they're probably like the most famous group, but obviously we'll get into him. He had a lot of other groups in that he produced in kind of a similar soul pop style, and that was his thing, and he did great with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what's your last song here? Also by Thom Bell here.
Yeah, so the last one is by a group called the Delphonics, and this is called "Didn't I Blow Your Mind."
I gave my heart and soul to you, girl. Didn't I do it, baby?
just great stuff all around. Just listening to this now, the vocals still just get me. They peak perfectly and they just nail it. And especially this one, you hear all sorts of strings and orchestration, and it's got again, he nails he knew what he was doing. He nails the intro, and this one you got the kind of the nice little horn intro that brings it in, and then things just build from there. And like the way the drums come in is just perfect every time. I can just like see the drummer doing the slow like boom 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 boom. Uh, Perfect working with the rest of the music and the vocals, and as I was listening through various kind of Thom Bell produced songs, this was one that always stuck out to me as one of my favorites.
Hmm. It's great, yeah, and he might as well have been a member of the Delphonics, given that he co-wrote a lot of their songs with William Hart, their lead singer. Like his credits are all over the first three albums, and all the hits that people know by the Delphonics are his songs. You know, this La La Means I Love You, Ready or Not, all co-written and produced by Thom Bell. So yeah, he wasn't like a Rick Rubin who sits on the couch and is like, yeah, do this and this and this. No, he's actually getting in there, and he's actually, doing stuff, for God's sake. So that's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, yep, he's just some great stuff. And then yeah, there's so many other bands too that he worked with. I believe he worked with the OJs and the Stylistics, which the Stylistics to me almost sounds like a what you would do if you were like making up like a 70s soul band name. It's just like so perfect. But he's got tons of credits there, but the Delphonics and the Spinners are probably some of his best stuff out there, and just great. Again, that 70s soul sound from Philadelphia that just kind of kept building. It's just again smooth, easy to listen to, and just perfect sound, perfectly put together. Just great stuff.
Yeah, Temptations, Dionne Warwick, Johnny Mathis. He also worked with Elton John for a little bit, did a few sessions with him. And this was like Elton away from his band and away from Bernie Taupin. And apparently they bristled up against each other, so they only got a handful of songs out of it. But Elton said that Bell gave him voice lessons and taught him how to sing in a lower register, which obviously helped him out later in his career when his voice dropped.
Wow,
so
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, very prolific in a lot of ways, for sure.
Yeah, and that's again one of the good things about the Hall of Fames in general is being able to kind of find you know people like this that you maybe never heard of or haven't really like looked into that much, and kind of exploring their careers and finding just new music, uh, because of it. And that's what's really I've enjoyed. Learning more about the Hall of Fame and Thom Bell that led me to listen to a lot of these groups that are just great.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. All right, so those were our picks, and we'll get to the non-performer inductee in a little bit there for the playout. But Dakota, this was a ton of fun, man. Whatever bugaboos we may have about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, yeah, I agree. It is nice to just talk about these artists, explore their work, celebrate their work as well. Except for Bad Company in your case, geez. But
Oh, you still remember I buried him. Oh well.
of course. But no, in all seriousness, this was great stuff. And hey, we could possibly do this next year as well for that class.
I will. I'll be doing my research and looking into it. Then I'll keep it on the calendar. But no, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Being episode 200, big deal. Again, honored to do it. And so, yeah, again, like you were saying, anyone listening, and I guess I did say this at the beginning, but a lot of people kind of roll their eyes or give a big thumbs down to talking about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But again, just talk about the bands, talk about the good music and enjoy it. So that's what I would say for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. Any plugs you want to give? Go right ahead.
I don't do social media, so good for me. Um, the VOW Discord, I guess, is my social media. So the music channel is great there, and I would recommend anyone listening to this if you want to talk about music, get in there, and wrestling fans will be there, so you have a little context. And the Hall of Fame channel too, the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame channel. I occasionally write articles for VOW. I think I maybe wrote one last January, February, but I've been thinking about writing a Briscoe Brothers article for a long time now, so maybe this will finally make me pull the trigger on that and finish that up. And so that's my last plug is vote for the Briscoe Brothers and Samoa Joe. If you have a Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame vote, we need to get them in. Their historical significance is massive, and similar to like the Rock Hall. Like I want to get the the highly influential, highly important bands in, even if they're not the ones that sold the most records. So, that'd be like the Replacements or Pixies or those sort of bands too. So, uh, Samoa Joe, Briscoe Brothers, Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame. I think that's the last thing I'll say.
Okay. Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. All the shows on there. Voicesofwrestling.com for all the articles, previews, reviews, things like that. Blue Sky at Music of the Mat and at Just Andrew on Blue Sky. If you want to leave a comment about this episode or share your picks, as Dakota said, voicesofwrestling.com/Discord. That's also where I post the Spotify playlist for each episode. And make sure you subscribe to the show on Apple, Spotify, or your podcast player of choice, and leave a nice rating and review. All right, so the playout song here, the Ahmet Erdogan Award for non-performers. He was the co-founder and president of Atlantic Records back in the day. This year's inductee is a guy named Lenny Waronker. He was a producer and A&R man at Warner Brothers Records. He worked with Randy Newman, Ry Cooder, James Taylor, Gordon Lightfoot, Ricky Lee Jones. He later became president of Warner Brothers, and he signed Prince, he signed REM, and then he founded DreamWorks Records, and he signed Rufus Wainwright, Elliott Smith, the Eels. So a pretty big deal in the music world there, Dakota.
Yeah, and he was really, you just named off a lot of great artists, and he was really kind of well known for that, of really finding, good artists that kind of push the boundaries, not just going for what was safe or what was popular at the time, but going out and finding people like, that were maybe not the surefire hit makers, but that were important artists and that were making just, groundbreaking music.
Mm-hmm. And I went with one of the most famous songs he co-produced. This is Randy Newman with his ode to the City of Angels. This is I Love L.A. Thanks again, Dakota.
Yep, thank you.
Rolling down Imperial Highway, the big nasty redhead at my side. Santa Ana winds blowing hot from the north. We were born to ride. Roll down the window, put down the top, crank up the Beach Boys, baby. Don't let the music stop. We gonna ride it till we just can't ride it no more. From the side bay to the valley, from the west side to the east side, everybody very happy, 'cause the sun is shining all the time. It's like another perfect day. I love LA. We love it. I love LA. We love it.
Music of the Mat is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. The songs used throughout this show are property of their respective copyright holders.
Do you like wrestling trivia? Then check out the 5-Star Match Game, the Pro Wrestling Quiz Show. I'm Joe Gagney, and every episode, I grill 3 contestants with 5 rounds of power-packed wrestling trivia. We have over 30 evergreen episodes in the archives covering WWE, AEW, Japan, Mexico, and much, 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 much more. Play along at home and check it out today.
Hey everybody, my name is Jesse Collins, and I am the host of the Gentleman's Wrestling Podcast, a show right here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. On the Gentleman's Wrestling Podcast, we take a deep look at individual issues and stories that are going on in the wrestling world. Each episode is about a different topic, and we take a thorough and educated look at things ranging from current booking trends to breakdowns on individual performers and angles to investigations into different fan cultures across the industry. In addition, we keep a close eye on the wrestling media, and as a professional journalist, I bring a unique perspective to how current issues in wrestling are being covered and discussed through the wrestling media. We have a revolving series of guests from across wrestling punditry joining us on each episode, and we hope that you make the choice to give us a listen on wherever you get your podcast from.